Musk decided to stop paying Twitter's bills, as any great businessman does, right?
Yeah, he probably took a note from Trump.
Have you ever wanted a podcast that did it all? Sports, politics, world events. Well, you have come to the right place, because you are listening to C&C Talks.
Hello, I'm Colin.
And I'm Charlie.
And welcome to the C&C Talks podcast, episode 22 of season 2. And it's been a little while, Charlie, but we are back for at least the next few weeks. We will have weekly episodes again.
Yeah, so that's it's been kind of a mess. A lot of people haven't been here and have been able to record, but yeah, we're back. Just as a reminder, as we do every week, except when we're gone, we release every Wednesday, and we talk about politics, world events, and sports. It's currently Monday, July 10th, 2023, at about 11 a.m. Pacific time.
Yeah, and a packed episode, obviously making up for a lot of this time. We'll talk about the Supreme Court decisions, Twitter's collapse, Biden's quote-unquote cocaine scandal that isn't a scandal, Russia's coup attempt, the Netherlands, Jair Bolsonaro, Sweden maybe being closer to joining NATO, NBA, an MLB update at the All-Star break, and a whole lot more, Charlie. Let's dive right into it.
All right, let's get into it. While we were gone, the Supreme Court was busy making a bunch of big moves on some things that could really change American history. What do we got?
Yeah, so Charlie, you do not need me to tell you that most of these decisions are not the best decisions, not actually rooted in the Constitution or even in fact. Let's start with affirmative action. The Supreme Court has gotten rid of affirmative action. It's now banned. That's going to have a pretty big effect on like college admissions. Not a great.
What are your thoughts on affirmative action, by the way?
Ideally, you don't want a school to be deciding those things based on race, but we don't live in an ideal world, right? And it is a fact that people of color are disproportionately disadvantaged, underserved, and it's a lot harder for them to get the resources that they need. And furthermore, schools should want to have a diverse student body that benefits everyone, and affirmative action makes that easier. So I'm sure that some colleges that want to continue doing affirmative action will come up with ways to try to get around this decision. We'll see.
Yeah, my thoughts on it is I agree diversity is really important in colleges, and colleges on their own may not end up doing that. But I do think that it's a problem that some students of some groups get penalized for that, for them really essentially not doing anything. They can do really well on tests but still not make it because of affirmative action. I'm not saying that cancels out what affirmative action does. I'm just saying that it is one of the negative factors of it.
Yeah, no, I see the point. I see the point.
All right, another big move: the student loan debt plan set out by Biden last year, I believe, has now been canceled by the Supreme Court. Yeah,
canceled for no clear reason, except no adhesion in the Constitution, except that the conservative justices on the Supreme Court apparently didn't like it very much. So they just got rid of it because apparently the Supreme Court is now a political entity.
And that's seen as well in the independent state legislature doctrine.
Yeah, I mean, that one's interesting, right? Because the independent state legislature doctrine, which the Supreme Court ruled against, was just absolutely, it's an insane theory that basically states that when it comes to elections, state legislatures do not have to follow their state constitutions and can instead just choose whoever they want. to be the electors from that state in presidential elections. That one did seem to be too nuts for the Supreme Court justices, though not all of the Supreme Court justices. It was a 6-3 votes, or in other words, they were 2 votes away, Charlie, from basically ending democracy in the United States of America.
Yeah, that's way too close.
It is way too close.
The last notable decision involved a website designer. I believe this is referring to the website designer that refused to make a page for gay marriage on a marriage page.
Supposedly, the case, basically, there was a woman, website designer, who was upset to make basically like an invitation for a gay wedding. It went against her views, right? And the Supreme Court ruled that no, she does not have to make the wedding poster. One slight problem, though. She's not a web designer. The person that she's claiming asked her to make this poster is himself a website designer and is straight. So literally the facts of the case do not match up, and the Supreme Court just saw this and like, looks good to us. And as a result, that's a pretty big decision that basically states that companies do not have to serve the LGBTQ community.
Yeah, and in other words,
that's what the decision means. Make no mistake about it.
This decision could also be used to discriminate against other groups as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
It essentially just means the companies can now choose who they serve.
Basically, or at least when it comes to like gender identity and sexual orientation.
Yeah, at least for now, it could expand.
Yeah.
Now let's move on to Biden's cocaine thing that happened.
Yeah, cocaine a week ago was found at the White House, and it was there were lots of rumors. Let's just say, as lots of theories, as you would expect. Seems the most likely situation. Some dumb visitor to the White House who, when putting stuff in a cubby, forgot to check his pockets and brought a illegal narcotic into the White House. Yikes.
Yeah, that is not good. But it does seem like Biden does not have anything to do with this, which is very important because certain factions on the other side of the aisle were definitely trying to pin this on him, and that could really gain some steam for them in the coming election.
Him or Hunter Biden, who obviously we know has used cocaine in the past. But no, neither him or Hunter were actually at the White House in the 48 hours before it was discovered. They were both at Camp David, I believe.
Yes. And Musk cannot stop himself from destroying Twitter. So, Colin, what has he done now?
Okay, so this story, we'll pick it up right at the beginning of July because Musk decided to stop paying Twitter's bills, as any great businessman does, right?
Yeah, he probably took a note from Trump.
Yeah, and so the platform kind of collapsed, and he had to install a rate limit. People could only view 600 tweets a day unless they were subscribed to Twitter Blue, in which case they could view 6,000 tweets a day. Which, let me just say, if you're an advertiser on that platform, that probably doesn't fill you with a lot of confidence that people can't view very many tweets and therefore view many ads. So great business decisions by Musk. But then, really, when things started going downhill is when Mark Zuckerberg, who Elon has already been trying to set up a cage fight with, launched Threads, which is a alternative to Twitter similar but different and also not great. Here's the thing. For all of Twitter's faults, it is actually a pretty decent platform for what it's intended for, right? And that's why there's so many people that use it, Charlie.
Oh, well, yeah.
And
it is semi-reliable, and you can also you also don't have to worry about the entire market of high usage apps being controlled by one guy.
Yeah, but then also like all of the features like DMs, retweet, like quote tweets, all of there's a whole ton of useful features on that platform that really no one else has been able to successfully replicate. Trending topics. But so Zuckerberg launched Threads, and in a clear sign of just how many people hate Twitter right now, it got millions upon millions of signups in the first 48 hours. And Elon Musk is not very happy about this, calling Zuckerberg a cheater, and then firing this off. He wrote, "Zuck is a cuck," and then I propose a literal dick measuring contest. Charlie.
Yeah, I'm putting my money on Zuck for that one.
I'd still rather see a cage fight.
All right, let's move on now to world events. And the biggest news in the last few weeks was the fact that Russia almost collapsed on itself. The Wagner Group decided that it was going to try to, I believe, remove Putin. They did not get all too far, and they ended up turning around after a deal was brokered between them and Belarus, I believe.
Yeah, do we know if Prigozhin is still alive or where he even is?
I believe he did have a meeting with Putin a few days ago.
Yeah. Hey, here's the thing. It's a very, very bad look for Prigozhin. Also a very, very bad look for Putin. No one comes out looking
good from that.
Looking good.
Yeah. So what's next for Russia and Ukraine?
I think that Ukraine really just has to keep up their counteroffensive. Russia is still a mess. Ukraine could be closer to joining NATO. Things are not looking good for Russia. I'll put it that way.
No, they certainly aren't. Also not looking good was the Dutch government, which collapsed a few weeks ago due to the Dutch government was previously a coalition of 4 political parties, and they collapsed over a debate over immigration policy.
Yeah, so the Prime Minister has resigned. I believe that they still do not have a new Prime Minister. Is that correct, Charlie?
Yes. I don't know how to pronounce
and there is no majority party there.
I don't know how to pronounce his name, but he was trying to negotiate a package to reduce the flow of new migrants, and that caused the entire coalition that he had built to collapse.
Yeah, not good. And makes you wonder, like, what's next, Charlie? Are there going to be new general elections? I mean,
I'm not sure. I believe that I don't know if this is the way it works, but I think they're either going to have an election or the parties that are still there are going to try to form a new coalition.
Yeah, I mean, those are really the only options, I feel like. But right now, that country does not have a prime minister. So
no,
we will continue to follow that. Interesting news out of Brazil. Jair Bolsonaro, the former president, who tried to pull off basically his own version of January 6th. He has now been barred from running for office in Brazil through 2030.
Man, if only we did that, right?
What?
If only we did that to our guy.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at how Brazil responded to their version of January 6th compared to how the U.S. responded to ours, I mean, it's night and day, right? They actually arrested a whole ton of people same day. That's something that did not happen here.
No, but the U.S. has been working on it.
Yes, I mean, and the Department of Justice has done a quite good job at rounding up all of the seditionists.
All right, now let's move on to sports. All
Yeah,
right.
let's start with the NBA draft, Charlie. Number one pick went, I think, as we all expected it to.
Yeah, Victor Wembanyama is now a San Antonio Spur.
Yeah, and he's played now a couple of summer league games. First game really did not look good. Second game looked significantly better. Sky's the limit for him, Charlie.
Yeah, I really think it is. He could really be a huge talent here.
And Greg Popovich, meanwhile, signing that huge extension with the Spurs. He'll be there for five more years at least. Is he ever going to retire?
I'm starting to have doubts that he will.
Yeah. Then number two, Charlie, it's kind of between Brandon Miller and Scoot Henderson. Why don't you tell us the poor decision that your Hornets decided to make?
Yeah, we picked Miller, and he's not been very good so far.
No, he is not. It's been rough. It's been rough.
But here's the thing: am I surprised that we did this? No, not
No.
at all. I figured that we always do. We always do the stupidest thing possible.
And they might re-sign Miles Bridges.
Yep, you told me that, and I'm not happy with that.
No, how could you be?
Yeah.
Yeah. Scoot then, meanwhile, was drafted by the Blazers at number 3. Now, Damian Lillard, Charlie, demanding a trade from the Blazers to specifically the Miami Heat. He's made it very clear he wants to go to the Heat.
Yeah, I think that will really even boost that Heat lineup even more, and I think that if they can get Damian Lillard, I believe that they will win the World Series, win the NBA Finals.
Yeah, the question though is, can they even make that deal, right? Like, what do they have to give up? It's going to have to be a large package. They'll probably have to get a third team involved in the deal, and it's unclear if the Blazers are even willing to cooperate. And I understand both sides. On one hand, Lillard did sign a max contract with the Blazers, but on the other hand, it's kind of under the assumption that they would actually try to be good and not waste his last few years in the league instead of doing a rebuild. They seem to be picking rebuild.
They do.
And let's not forget though, Charlie, they have a great young core. They have Scoot, Shaden Sharp, Anthony Simons. It's a great young core.
It certainly is.
But it's not ready.
No, and we also did have some huge moves between that 3-team deal between the Warriors, the Wizards, and then I can't remember the other 2 teams that were involved.
Suns.
Oh yeah, the Suns and Boston, right?
Was it Boston? I'm not sure.
Boston got Porzingis.
Yeah, no. Chris Paul to the Warriors. Bradley Beal to the Suns. Wizards get Jordan Poole. In a separate deal.
First-rounders.
What?
Boston gets 2 first-rounders as well.
Yeah, and that's in the Porzingis deal. I think that's a slightly different deal, also involving Washington. Also sends Marcus Smart to the Grizzlies. I don't know. I'm not liking these deals for Washington, honestly, though.
Well, I think it's good. They picked up Jordan Poole, who's a young piece. They're going to try to rebuild. I can tell that. I don't like the fact that they lost a first-rounder in the process, but I think they are.
Generally, if you're trying to rebuild, you don't want to lose first-rounders.
No, but getting Jordan Poole, who has shown he can be really good, I think is worth it.
Yeah, and I think also just the fit on the Warriors, not great with the whole Draymond incident, who the Warriors did just re-sign.
Are you happy with how the whole thing ended up?
Yes, but I still don't think that the Warriors are a championship team.
Yeah, I will gladly agree with you on that one.
Well, no, what matters to me most though right now is that Draymond Green will almost certainly retire a Warrior now.
Yeah, most certainly. Speaking of people who will not be in their career for the rest of their career, ESPN laid off a bunch of people, including analysts and announcers.
Yeah, it's a long list, Charlie. Jeff Van Gundy What do you think about that one? Because he was the top voice or top analyst for the NBA Finals.
Yeah, that one's really shocking to me. I'm really surprised that they actually ended up doing that.
Yeah, I mean, so many others as well. David Pollock from College Game Day. Fonzo Ellis from the basketball version of College Game Day. Matt Hasselback from Sunday NFL Countdown. Who am I missing, Charlie? There's a lot.
Yeah, there's a big list.
Susie Colbert, host of Monday Night Countdown. Todd McShay as well. NFL
Yeah, that's
Draft.
a big one. I believe they also fired Hasselback as well.
Yeah, I said Hasselback.
Oh, you did. Okay.
And to me, though, it really shows the crisis in sports journalism right now, right? And what it's turning. Right? Who did they not lay off? They didn't lay off Stephen A. Smith. I mean, sure, he makes them a lot of money, but that's kind of the problem. Is that's where the views are in sports right now. It's in the debates, not in. Journalism is not being valued.
No, it's absolutely not. All right, let's move on to the MLB All-Star break update now. We got some big movers, we got some big fallers and some big risers, and a great battle for a couple of divisions as we head into the second half of the season. So let's start.
Then, by the way, we will give a full recap of All-Star Week on next week's show, but for now, all I can say is Julio is him.
So let's start with, speaking of Julio, let's start with the AL West. Texas still leads that division, but they seem to be slowing down a little bit. Houston's 2 games out behind them, and I believe Seattle is 3 games behind Houston.
4 games behind Houston.
4 games behind Houston.
Yeah, Texas to me right now, they have not won a series since mid-June. They do not look like a team to me right now that is going to hold on to the division. Maybe they can hold on to a playoff spot. I don't see them holding on to the division, though. The Astros coming on, and they'll get you Alvarez and Altuve back at some point. Mariners maybe looking like they're starting to piece things together. Could be poised. I think that the Mariners could still win the division. It's definitely an uphill battle. And then the Angels, Charlie, are collapsing.
Yeah, no, the Angels are done.
So what do you think they should do with Ohtani, though?
I can tell you what they're going to do. They're going to keep him and then lose him in free agency rather than what they should do, which is trade him and get some pieces back for him.
Yeah, and let's be clear. You can't win a trade in which you give up Shohei Ohtani. You just can't.
I think they can.
But it's still better than getting nothing.
Yeah, I think the concern with trading Ohtani is you don't want to go down in history as the guy who traded Shohei Ohtani.
I see that, but I'd counter that with you don't want to go down in history as the guy that lost Shohei Ohtani for nothing.
Yeah, good point. But I mean, it looks better that he chose to left in free agency rather than we traded him.
I don't know if it looks better, and I'm actually interested to see what Trout's move is going to be. If they lose Ohtani, is he still going to want to be an Angel? And there's not much he can do about it if he does. If he doesn't want to be an Angel, it'll still be interesting to see if maybe this offseason we could see him on the trading block.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. Looking at the Central now, that entire division is basically garbage.
That's almost certainly going to be a one playoff team division. And
absolutely.
Probably the Twins, we still think?
I'm starting to change on Cleveland. I like Cleveland's squad this year, and I think they could do it.
Yeah, Cleveland is, I believe, like 5 games back of a wild card. Just a couple games back of the division, though. If they could turn it around. By the way, Cleveland only has 60 home runs all season.
That is a concern.
But, I mean, if you look at the way that their offense works, it's very old school. It's just guys that get hits. They manufacture runs.
They do. All right.
And Then looking at the East, that's a much
is
better.
absolutely stacked.
The Red Sox are in 5th place. The Red Sox are also, I believe, 2 games out of a playoff spot.
Yes, they are.
I mean, that's absurd.
It's ridiculous.
And the Rays are cooling off a bit, sure. The Orioles aren't, and the Orioles I think are only going to get better. They are set up if their owner, and it's a big if their owner is willing to do something, like to spend some money, they are set up for a long, long time.
The Orioles?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And then the Yankees, what do you make of the Yankees this year? Because their offense just hasn't had it without Judge.
Confusion. I don't understand how that team works.
I mean, we said so at the beginning of the season, though, right? Like, they need Judge to have another huge year, or else their offense is not good.
Yeah, and can you guess what happened to Aaron Judge?
He's injured.
Yes.
And by the way, he was an MVP candidate before he got injured.
Absolutely. Let's move on now to the NL. The Dodgers are, I believe, tied now with the Diamondbacks for the division lead in the NL West.
That's going to be a great race.
So is the battle in the Central between the Reds and the Brewers.
And then the East is over, like long over.
Oh yeah, no, the Braves have already won that division.
Yeah, what happened to the Mets though, Charlie?
They did what the Mets do.
Okay, and then what about the Marlins? Because this is a team that's kind of come out of nowhere. They're really good, even with a struggling Sandy Alcantara.
Yeah, I don't understand it.
I mean, this has been the year of surprises. I mean, Marlins, Reds,
Diamondbacks.
Yeah. And then another team also struggling, though maybe picking it back up slightly, is the Padres right now.
Yeah, you could definitely say the same thing about Philadelphia.
Yeah, a couple teams that they met in the NLCS last year. They started off slow, maybe starting to come back into the race. But I think that, Charlie, we should prepare for a boring trade deadline. Why?
Yeah, I agree.
Why? Who is there to be traded besides Ohtani if he gets traded?
Yeah, that's fair.
So I think for the most part, the squads we have now
are what they're going to be.
Got the rest of the way, and it'll be an exciting finish.
It definitely will be. All right, let's move on to everyone's favorite and Colin's most favorite thing. I get to talk about Formula One. I'll begin with a very brief update, just breaking a couple hours ago. Nick DeFries's time at AlphaTauri is now over. He did not perform to the expectations required by the team and will be replaced for the rest of the season by Daniel Ricciardo. But let's move on to the actual races. The British Grand Prix was just this past week. Verstappen won as usual, but it was a lot closer. Norris actually led the first few laps of the race, breaking Verstappen's 277-lap race-leading streak.
I'm bored.
Before lap 6, when Verstappen then passed him again. But both Norris and Hamilton were both on the podium. First time we've seen two Brits on the podium since 1999, which really was surprising to me. Sorry, at Britain since 1999. That makes more sense. And then the Austrian Grand Prix was so boring that I actually slept through it, in fact. I just had no reason to wake up. But moving on to a different series now, we actually saw the first NASCAR street race in Chicago, celebrating the 4th of July weekend and the 75th anniversary of NASCAR. Really, actually, surprisingly good race. It was won by Shan van Gisbergen, who is a supercar racer, which was really surprising to me because they brought him in just to see what he could do, and he ended up winning. Really good race, good action, and I think this really could be what NASCAR does in the future. Street tracks. It went really well this time, and I think that they probably should expand it next season. All right, I think that's it for this episode.
Yeah, one quick question, Charlie, before we go out of here.
Yes.
Formula One announcing their 2024 schedule, which will be 24 races. They're bringing back the race in China. What are your thoughts on the schedule?
I really like the schedule. I love the fact that they moved Japan up to earlier in the season. That's a great track, and it's good to see it earlier in the year. Moving Azerbaijan back, that's always a chaotic race. So with a tight championship battle next year, which hopefully there is, and probably will be, in fact, it'll be really good to see all that action towards the end of the season in September. I want to see how Las Vegas turns out this year before I get hyped for it next year. Hopefully we can actually have the race at Imola and not have it get rained out. And it'll be good to have Shanghai back on the schedule with the really tight double hairpin in a turn 2 and 3, and that super long back straightaway.
And Monaco still sucks.
Monaco still sucks.
All right. Thanks for listening, everybody. Make sure you subscribe because we have episodes out every single Wednesday wherever you listen to podcasts. Visit our website, cctalks.net, to learn everything you want to know about the show, and call us with your questions, 360-389-2630. Again, that's 360-389-2630. And follow us on Twitter at CC Talks Podcast. We will let you know if we get an account on Threads or on any other social platform. For our producer Morris, production designer Zack, and proof editor Drake, I'm Colin.
And I'm Charlie. By the way, cream cheese and hot dog, really good.
It is.